Hello, this is Meagan Mermaid, and I'm so excited to be here for our full moon in Virgo message. So, I know I've kind of been MIA. There's been a lot of things that have been happening over the past few months, and I've been like pulled in different directions. So, I had to get to this point of figuring out how can I continue all of the service work that I'm doing out in the world right now without forgetting my work, my entrepreneurial work. And so in this particular chapter, it feels like doing pre-recorded messages are the best possible outcome right now with my daughter who's 3 and all of my other responsibilities and things that are happening. So pay attention for more messages like this to come, for full moons, for new moons, as well as other special different messages that want to come through. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what this full moon means, the energy that we'll be expecting, and then I'm going to be pulling from my deck, the Mermaid Empowerment Oracle deck, as well as the tarot, so that we can kind of get a feel on what's coming up for us. And what's interesting is that, the past few days I've been listening to different messages. For example, the gene key of the week is gene key 55, and it's all about freedom. The shadow is victimhood, I believe, and then the city and the gift are both freedom. So because we're in Pisces season, that's sort of like a shadow of Pisces, right? Is feeling like we're a victim. So issues of self-pity might be coming up, or ways that we've been kind of distracting ourselves. But what else is really beautiful about Pisces season is that it's an opportunity to really just kind of be in the flow. So what worked for us last month isn't going to work anymore. In Aquarius season, we're more in this energy of listening to our mind and kind of letting our thoughts, the good thoughts at least, the visionary ideas sort of guide us, where Pisces is all about how we feel. And so with this full moon in Virgo, we're kind of having to balance how we feel emotionally, spiritually, artistically, creatively, and how to ground that into being. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment. But to kind of go back to this idea of the 55th gene key and what it means to free ourselves and to find freedom, there's been a couple things that I've been contemplating. In Richard Rudd's audio for the 55th gene key, which you can find at genekeys.com, he talks about asking the question, where do I not feel free in my life? And so I feel like that's something that we can take into our contemplation with this full moon, is asking, like, where do you not feel free? Because the power of Virgo is that it allows us to kind of go in and clean up what needs to be cleaned up, to look at things honestly, to look at the details, and to figure out a plan of action to be of service to ourselves, to others, to the earth. And Virgo is no nonsense. So it's this really good balance to Pisces, which is really flighty and really all over the place. And then another talk that I listened to this week was from Marianne Williamson. It was a talk that she had shared, which you can find on YouTube, and it's about manifesting. And I actually had a course. I do have a course, Mermaid Mindset Makeover, that's about manifesting your dream life, your fairy tale life. And it's funny because manifesting is in itself a step, but it's not the whole truth, right? It's like, I believe there are 4 levels. Like, the first is that victim consciousness of thinking things are happening to us, right? And then the second stage of more empowerment is that things are happening by us. And that's sort of where a lot of the law of attraction and manifesting teachings kind of live in that space, that section of transcendence, of enlightenment. But then we move beyond that. And the next stage is things are happening through us, where God consciousness is flowing through us and is creating this effect upon the world. We are the vessels of that. And then we get to this final stage where God is happening as us, that there is no separation, that we are one, divinity, humanity, all of it is one. And the 55th gene key really encapsulates that. It's a part of the seven seals, which is a very powerful mystery school teaching that I'm going to be walking us through in a 7-month journey beginning next month. So I'll be sharing more about that. But to kind of bring everything back in, I can absolutely see this Pisces energy where it's like, ooh, flying to this thought and ooh, flying to that thought. So back to the talk about Marianne Williamson, there were two really clear, really practical, because Virgo is very practical, affirmations or mantras that I got from that particular talk that I wanted to share with you. And the first is, may God's will be done. Okay, so the best way that we can know that we're always in the highest timeline is to say, may God's will be done. And when we surrender how we think things should look in our limited perspective, and we say, may God's will be done, then we know we're going to be at the right place. We're going to be at the right time. We don't need to worry about the details. And then the second was, may loving thoughts prevail. So when we are in this energy of Virgo, Virgo is very good at sort of helping to clear out the clutter, right? And so we can use this energy to clear out what's in our mind. And as long as we're having loving thoughts, then we're in that space of miracles occurring. And we really need miracles on this planet. I don't know about you, but I feel like we can really get into this space of fear and anxiety about what's happening in the world. There is so much suffering. There's so much suffering. There's so many horrible things that are going on right now. And we have to keep our eyes fixed on the truth of love, that love is stronger than fear. So, what is this full moon energy going to bring for us? The first thing that we want to figure out is knowing that full moons are always a time where the light is shined on something. Shown. The light shines on a certain area of our life. And you can look at your astrology chart and it will tell you the particular house that this moon is going to be activating and lighting up. But full moons in general kind of shine the light on what needs to be revealed. Okay. So because we have this axis of Pisces and Virgo, let's talk a little bit more about that. As I shared, Pisces, this is very flowy, kind of boundaryless energy, where Virgo is very clear, very grounded, very earth-based. But the shadow side of Virgo can often be perfectionism or criticism or self-doubt, all of these things where that expert eye of detail kind of goes back on us. And so in the mix of this full moon in Virgo, we also have Mercury and Saturn in Pisces opposing this moon. So some of the things that we might be experiencing as themes is frustration or setbacks or impatience. And it's kind of like we're having to find this balance of living between the worlds without being too much in the external, in a way where we're limiting ourselves, and also without having some type of materialized way of bringing things into form with this Pisces energy. So today I'm going to pull some cards and do a star spread from my deck, the Mermaid Empowerment and the Tarot, and just kind of give us a little bit more insight about how to deal with this energy. I'll give you an example. So I've been doing all sorts of kind of side hustles. There's so many things that I do as a line 3 in my life's work. And if you want to know what your life's work is, you can download your free hologenetic profile at genekeys.com. And I've sort of accepted that as a line 3, I wear a ton of hats. And it's like, this week I'm doing an event as a tarot reader, and this week I'm designing a website, and next week I'm seeing clients for my personal business, or then I'm teaching group fitness classes. And, to kind of fill things in, I also have been doing deliveries. Like I've been doing like grocery deliveries and things like that. And it's been really interesting. And so I had this moment today where, I was supposed to be delivering one order, and then it got switched around, and that lady couldn't figure out or she couldn't find what she needed, and so she had to cancel it. But I was already at the store, and then two other orders came in, and I was just kind of like witnessing all of this stuff where I could see myself like watching how, oh, I thought it was this, but then that door closed, but then this one opened because that door closed. And then, from that door opening, it led me to this door. And I went on this whole kind of like adventure of the evening. And it was very different than the way that I had thought. And it was interesting because on the last order that I delivered, I saw a coyote like walking through a residential neighborhood. And coyote medicine is all about the trickster, right? It's kind of like not taking ourselves or our journey so seriously. And that can be a shadow side of Virgo is taking things too seriously, taking ourselves too seriously, and not having fun. And so the playful energy of Pisces kind of is like, oh, I'm going to follow this butterfly and it's going to lead me, to the other side of the rainbow. I mean, Pisces is like that. It's undefinable. But the reason I share this kind of example, this illustration of my particular evening, especially with the spirit animal that came through, is that we've got to be in the flow of not trying to hold on so tightly to things. We can't hold on so tightly to a job or to a relationship and think this is our source of happiness, or this is our source of abundance, or this is our source of whatever it is, fill in the blank. Because life is always going to be changing and shifting and fluctuating, especially during this time of Pisces season. We have to understand plans are going to change. Things are not written in stone. And the thing with Virgo is Virgo wants order, and it wants to know that this is the way. So that's where we're having to figure out, okay, do we want to get into that space of frustration or impatience because things aren't going our way? Or do we want to be with that and kind of just let go and ride the wave wherever the wave of God consciousness is carrying us? Because either way, doors are going to open and doors are going to close regardless. But how are we going to feel about that? So that's what I want us to bring into the cards, into our contemplation today is, how can we be with all of the uncomfortable emotions that arise, right? Because it's okay to feel that. I felt that today where, my co-parent was supposed to be available at a certain time, and he ended up getting something came up and he was running late. And because he was running late, it like put my whole day and my whole schedule kind of out of whack. And I sat with that and I was like, ooh, I feel impatience. I feel all of this. But then I let myself have all of those feelings, but again, took that step back of the perspective of what was happening. And I saw that by the end of the evening, all of the series of events had played out in this beautiful, beautiful picture, this image that I could have never created had I tried to control every single detail. So if you notice that you're getting impatient or frustrated, it's going to be for the next couple of weeks as we close out this lunar cycle before the next new moon. Be with that. When you feel those uncomfortable emotions arising, ask yourself, how am I trying to control the situation or trying to control the outcome? And how can I let go? How can I let go? How can I let go? Okay, so for the current situation, we're going to start out with that. And let's see what's going on here. What's the current situation for this moon? We have the Three of Swords and receptivity. This is interesting that this is coming up, Three of Swords, because I don't know about you, but Pisces season is all about pining. And the term pining, if you're not familiar with that, is sort of like this longing, this yearning, and often it has to do with our love relationships. Pisces can sort of have this like idealistic, beautiful, romantic view of the world. But then there's also this like kind of sadness that life can't be that beautiful, or that the beautiful moments are fleeting, or, this nostalgia. For example, I was clearing out my phone. I felt called to like get rid of contacts in my phone that I don't need anymore. And I came to a particular ex-boyfriend, and like I looked at my phone and I was just like, I can't do it. I know it's over. I know he's dating someone else. I know we don't even live in this same state anymore, but like some part of me was like clinging to this, right? And ever since that moment in the past few days, there's been all of these like feelings and memories and things that have been sort of coming up about that, and missing that, and having to grieve that it's over. And so I share that because there may be particular memories or people or situations for you that are coming up that are just bringing about this feeling of sorrow. And we have to be with that. And the tendency of Pisces often is to want to distract ourselves or numb out. And yeah, you can eat or drink or do whatever to kind of numb that pain, but it doesn't go away. That's why years later we're still having to like unravel what we didn't look at the time. So save yourself the trouble and just allow yourself the space to grieve what needs to grieve. Full moons are about letting go, releasing. So we've got to deal with whatever part of our heart that still feels broken in some way, and honor that and nurture that. And so the mermaid empowerment is receptivity. I am open and receptive. So when we keep our heart open and we allow ourselves to receive our own nurturing, our own self-care, then we open the floodgates for miracles to come through. And when we choose to keep our heart open, even when it hurts, even when it's challenging, that's when we become a magnet for those blessings to come through that may not have come otherwise had we tried to distract ourselves or numb ourselves. So now we're going to move on. Uh-oh, all of these cards fell. Let's see. Interesting. There's a bunch of messages that want to come through, so we're going to have to just simplify here. Oh, this is so strange. This was on the top. So this is the advice card. Look, another card of feeling sad. We have the Nine of Swords and we have faith. I have faith in my fairy tale life is the empowerment. So the Nine of Swords is all about worry, and it's kind of like staying up late at night, like thinking about the worst possible scenario. What if this happens, or what if this happens, or what if this doesn't happen? And that's definitely a Virgo-esque shadow of like overthinking or over planning, and worrying ourselves into a frenzy. I had listened to another talk from Marianne Williamson the other day because I've really been, following her previous work. It's really been speaking to me lately. And she shared in one of her talks that someone had told her that worry is praying for the worst possible outcome. So think about that the next time you start to worry. Am I praying for the worst possible outcome right now? And so in those moments, that's when we have to turn to the energy of faith. We have to have faith that no matter what, love always wins. That it doesn't matter what could happen or what could go wrong, because ultimately we are vessels. We are God in human form, and God is working through us. So all we have to do is keep the faith that if it's not the ideal, beautiful situation that Pisces wants right now, that it's just because we're in the middle. The middle can be messy, but we're not at this final space yet. And think about it. I mean, I've been like really into 90s shows recently, and I've been watching Charmed. My daughter and I love that show. If you're not familiar, it's a show that took place in the 90s of these three sisters who were witches. They were good witches, and they would fight these warlocks or whatever other people were trying to harm the innocents, is what they called them. And so it's like every single episode, they're up against some type of like horrible energy or entity, and it always looks in the middle like, oh my gosh, how are they going to overcome this, or what's the spell that's going to help them, or how are they going to combine their powers to overpower this negative energy. But it's like no matter what kind of roller coaster you go on watching that episode, you always know in the end it's going to work out. And so movies, TV, film, those are all kind of the archetypal image of the hero's journey. And that's what we're living. We are actually living out that archetypal human hero's journey right now. And so we have to trust that we can have faith no matter what. It always works out. There's always a happy ending. And if we don't feel that, it's because we're in the middle of the story right now. So, what is the challenge or resistance that we kind of need to overcome? We know that we're supposed to look at this sorrow and worry. We're supposed to allow ourselves to receive. We're supposed to have faith. So, interesting. We have the 10 of Swords, a lot of swords cards in this energy, and synchronicity. So, the mermaid empowerment for synchronicity is every sign that I see brings more signs to me. So because this is in the challenge, I feel like maybe we're not seeing the signs, or we're not seeing in the external that things are changing or shifting right now. And that's what's causing the worry or the stress or the sorrow or the heartbreak. And then this 10 of Swords, it's kind of like the worst thing has already happened. It's interesting because we got the 9 of Swords in the advice. It's worrying about worst case scenario. But the 10 of Swords is different. It's like, okay, it already happened. The heartbreak happened. The grief happened. The death happened. The loss of the job happened. Whatever it was, it happened. Now we've got to move forward. And that's why I love this particular image of the 10 of Swords, because it's like watching all the birds fall away, right? It's like we got to feel the sorrow. We got to feel the suffering, but then we've got to release it. We've got to release it. And even if we don't know how, we've got to be willing to. So maybe right now, what you can do is ask for a sign and just say, show me that I'm on the right track. And, the universe will deliver that in very powerful and magical and fun-filled ways. So the correct action for this moon, we have the King of Cups and open heart. I love this. This is very Piscean energy. And so the King of Cups is it's sort of like this energy of being in this beautiful, emotional, intuitive space, but in a very masculine way, where it might even be more boundaried, because when we look at the Queen of Cups, oftentimes it's this energy of overgiving, but the King of Cups is different. It's sort of like having this open heart, but also kind of trusting and being mindful of who gets to be a part of that open heart. So the mermaid empowerment for open heart is I'm in harmony with my heart. And in order to call in whatever you want to call in, you've got to be in harmony with your heart. So it's very clear we've all got some type of pain, some type of grief, some type of suffering that we need to look at. We need to honor, we need to be with, we need to nurture. And when we do that, we have to keep our heart open. It's very easy to think that just because something hasn't worked out in the past, that it's safer to close your heart from having those experiences moving forward because of that fear that you could get hurt again. But the thing is, when we build these walls to protect ourselves, we actually create more pain because we're keeping ourselves from that deep longing for human connection, which is different than pining. Pining is sort of that energy of wishing that we had a certain person or experience, because in our mind we've created this idealistic image that that person represents. And so we feel that in order to get a certain feeling, in order to feel fulfilled in some way, that we must have this idealized image, this person, this thing. And that's what idolatry is. That's thinking that something outside of our own God consciousness could fulfill us. And so we've all been there, right? It's a part of the human experience, but we've got to start looking at it and kind of demystifying the illusions and look at and think, wow, like, for example, in the experience with me, like longing for this ex-boyfriend, I've also had to look at all of the things that clearly were not healthy in that relationship. And oftentimes when we're in a space where things aren't where we'd like them to be in the present moment, we can idealize and romanticize the past and feel that whatever was there that we don't have now is that missing piece. But the missing piece is to unite with our heart and to unite with our own divinity. So the other possibilities for this moon, we have Six of Swords, so many swords, so much mental stuff that we're working through, and bliss. I embody the bliss of my soul's true purpose. So this is really beautiful. It's like we've got to feel the pain, but we've got to move away from those difficult experiences. We've got to keep moving forward, and we've got to turn them into our bliss, which is our purpose, what lights us up. For example, this morning I was teaching a chair Zumba class at an assisted living facility. And there was this man who was like 94 years old, and he was so funny, and his face was just lit up. I love working with seniors because I feel like they kind of have this like energy of like what life is, right? Like they're on the precipice of moving on and transitioning beyond this life. And it's like they have like this secret energy of, I would just say, like acceptance and peacefulness of what is. It's like a lot of times, as we age, we start to kind of let go of how people think about us or how life should be. And, it's different for everyone. But from what I've seen and observed, there's this beautiful grace and relaxed energy of people that have a lot of life experience. And this man in particular, like he was just so cheerful and so happy, and you could just tell like every moment to him was like a treasure, because he doesn't know how many more he'll have. And it was just so refreshing to be in that kind of energy. And there was just this moment where, there were several people, maybe 7 or 8, right? And, I'm just teaching them their little dance moves, very simple things, moving your arms, moving your hands. But there was just this moment where like I just relaxed into what was happening and just felt like this, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is how I can contribute and bring joy and radiance into the world right now. And, that's what bliss is. It's being of service, doing something that we're naturally good at, that we naturally enjoy, and just feeling that joy of just serving and being a part of this contribution to the world. And so that's what Virgo energy is about too. It's how can you be of service when you're feeling this sadness or whatever, wants to kind of present itself. Sorry, I don't know if you could see Isis. I was like, we might as well just say hi because you could just see the top of our ear. That's when, we can transmute that suffering into service, into beauty. So to kind of sum it all up, this message today, we have the 3 of Cups and we have radiance. I was just talking about radiance. And the mermaid empowerment for radiance is I bask in the glow of my inner radiance. So you see here how it's like the light is coming from within, and it's very solar plexus energy. It's kind of finding our inner power, right? Right now we're grieving the sadness of maybe the relationships or all the doors that closed, whatever didn't work. We can be sad about that. We can honor that. We can miss it. but everything is pointing back to us, to our light, to our bliss, because that's truly what's going to make us happy. For anyone that's been in a relationship, for example, that was not healthy, that was not fulfilling, it can feel lonelier than it actually does being on your own. And so, we've got to build up this radiance. We've got to bask in our own glow, our own light. We've got to build that up and let that be our number one priority, whether you're in a relationship or not. And so finally, we have the Three of Cups, which is sort of like the celebration, but I love how this is like an energy of sisters. And it also kind of reminds me of like all of the threes, right? Like mind, body, and spirit, or mother, maiden, wisdom keeper, or whatever. I really feel this energy of the triple goddess coming through. And it's funny because as I've been watching that Charmed show, which if you're into like witchy fun stuff, I definitely recommend it. It's fun to sort of kind of get into those stories. But they're three sisters and they have three powers, but they're only as strong as when they come together. And so I feel like this Three of Cups is kind of saying like we need to find our tribe, whether it's your sisters or whether it's other people that you want to connect with as you follow your bliss. It's like we've got to be of service, but we've also got to find our community. The more that we kind of plug into community, the less we're going to feel this sadness and this loss if we're not united in partnership right now. A lot of people are not in partnership right now because the complexity of our missions right now is top priority. That's just real. And it doesn't mean that you can't be in your mission and your purpose if you are in partnership. It's just we all have different lessons and roles that we're playing out. But sometimes this loneliness that you might be experiencing has nothing to do with whether or not you're in partnership. It's whether or not you are in relationship with your own heart, and whether or not you're in relationship with the co-creation of others that are, bringing in light and love and unity into the world at this time. So I hope this message was helpful to you in some way. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, I offer gene key sessions, galactic channeled readings, and make sure that you're on the mailing list at meaganmermaid.com. I send out newsletters with blogs and all sorts of other really helpful free resources. And stay tuned for more information on how you can be a part of my journey through the 7 sacred seals, which is a class that I'm going to be facilitating, going through Richard Rudd's 7 Sacred Seals curriculum from the Gene Keys, which I did last year at this time and was completely life-changing in so many ways. So I'm so excited to share it with all of you as we go on this really powerful group quest together through the seals. So thank you all for being here with me, and I wish you all a beautiful and wonderful, happy full moon in Virgo.